What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping back in with Destiny 2 news and some updates for the game. And so in this one, we'll talk about the rest of Season 20's story, and we also have a hidden quest coming up later in the season, which could be pretty neat. But on top of that, there are teasers for future content this year, possible featured characters, and rumours of a potentially massive change to power level after Year 6. So we'll cover all of that, but additionally, there are some pretty busted exotics in the game still. We're going to get more changes to Lightfall this week, and we'll clarify details about enhanced weapons coming mid-season. Plus there are a bunch of other things to cover in the videos. So as always guys, I hope you enjoy this one, and if you do, a rating below really helps us out. But without further delay, let's get into it. First up for today, a really quick mention, and we got a bit of a nostalgia throwback for Destiny 1 players. It was 6 years ago this week, yesterday in fact, that Age of Triumph was released for Destiny 1. And of course this was the last major content update for D1 before the launch of Destiny 2. But players who were in the game at that time have pretty fond memories of it, not least the incredible armor that we got, and we earned those for the raid challenges. There have been a few interesting sets in Destiny 2, but I'm not sure any are quite comparable to the ones we had in Age of Triumph. Bungie, please! It would be awesome to start getting some armor that looks a bit like this again. But also it introduced adept exotic weapons, new strike scoring options, and more. So it was a pretty fun time in the game, and I'd love to get your thoughts on what you miss most from D1 down below. But next, let's talk about Destiny 2, and some story spoilers for this week. We won't go into all the details, but this week's story quest did wrap up the main chunk of Season of Defiance narrative. And really this time it was about mourning the loss of Amanda Holliday, and we witnessed that last week. I'd say the most potent part this week being Zavala's response to the tragic loss. And while this is a significant story beat for the universe and its characters, it wasn't necessarily a significant step in the wider narrative for the game right now, which is leaving players wondering what happens next. Of course, the main quest thread may have ended, but it does look like there'll be an additional quest or activity at a later date. So it's listed as a quest right here and is called Retribution. And a quick spoiler alert is necessary, but it says work with Crow and Mara Sov to defy the Shadow Legion offensive on Earth. As far as I know, this isn't a quest we've gained access to yet, so it's probably an additional story piece that will happen some point in the season. Perhaps it could even be related to a season finale or something like that, as Bungie have had a tendency to drop those pretty consistently over the past few seasons. So something else to think about, and obviously this isn't quite the absolute end of the story in terms of Season of Defiance. Speaking of things that we may see in the story throughout the rest of the year though, Destiny Tracker pointed out on Twitter that according to IMDb, Kimberly Brooks has been cast as Xivu Arath in Destiny 2. Of course, take it with a pinch of salt. We have seen some funky info on IMDb in the past, but at the same time, it's entirely possible that there'll be more story with Xivu Arath in the very near future. On top of that though, they posted that Sloane is listed as a character under Lightfall's IMDb page, voiced by Sissy Jones, and so that's another character that could possibly return in the future. And there is speculation that we may return to Titan in Year 6, and with us approaching Season of the Deep, some players think this is possibly when Titan could return, or at least be featured as part of the story, but for now that is speculation and we'll have to wait and see. Moving on though, in other news, the game post right here have discussed the fact that Winterbite is still bugged in the game and is able to chunk damage off bosses due to some kind of glitch with the exotic. But it's a funny one because of course Bungie disabled it initially for the launch of the new raid, and since then they've dropped 2 different hotfixes attempting to fix issues with damage on the weapon. But in rare instances, the glaive is still able to melt bosses. So we'll have to see how they react to that in the near future. Another quick thing here, related to stasis, but Lush on Reddit did point out that with the new exotic bow from the Season Pass, you can become untargetable or invulnerable in PvE by firing yourself into a stasis crystal. It's actually something you can do with Salvation's Grip as well, but it's much easier to do with the bow right here. Not necessarily useful, but potentially interesting. As we discussed in a video yesterday though, there is an upcoming patch for the game this week. The Bungie have said they've got a plan to correct issues with Touch of Malice and Quicksilver Storm, which are dealing less damage than they should to red bar enemies. But it's possible we could get some other updates as well. Just last week, with Master Difficulty Raid going live this week, Bungie pointed out that sometimes Nezarec doesn't always respond to players when they're standing in a well of radiance, and it essentially bugs out and becomes not the most threatening boss, but they say in a future update we'll be updating this behaviour. So you never know, we might get that soon. And they've also identified an issue where the jump pads in the raid can kill players, especially when they're running above 80 FPS. So those are a couple of extra things that may find their way into a patch when we get that this week. As always though, I'll keep you posted when that patch drops. Another thing which players are wondering about regarding the Master Raid is what makes Adept weapons worthwhile. And it's a good question because Bungie have dropped the Master Raid without launching the full capability of the Adept weapons, and so they don't have selectable perks or additional upgrades right now, and instead, weapon enhancing for these guns will drop in the mid-season patch. So Bungie have said weapon enhancing will allow a weapon to be upgraded with enhanced traits, a level, and a memento socket. This upgrade will consume standard currencies and spoils of conquest for raid weapons, and it'll be applied through a new tiered weapon mod, and once enhanced, we'll be able to modify limited aspects of the weapon at the crafting relic. So weapon enhancing will have 3 tiers, and it will be able to be applied to any raid weapons you get dropped right now in the Adept variant. So if you get good rolls, definitely hold on to them. And for enhancement tier 1, it replaces the existing masterwork, grants an enhanced intrinsic, a weapon level, and a memento socket. For Raid Adepts, it'll allow the full selection over the barrel and magazine perks, and these perks are individually gated by level, same as crafted weapons. And the cost of weapon enhancing tier 1 will vary based on the masterwork tier that's being replaced. Enhancing a weapon that has a masterwork tier value of 10 will be much cheaper than enhancing a weapon with a masterwork tier value of 1. Then for enhancement tier 2, it'll require weapon level 11 and allow enhancing of the left column trait perk. Then for tier 3, it'll require weapon level 17 and allow enhancing of the right column trait perk. And so keep it in mind, it's not a function we have just yet, but for those Adept weapons you have from the raid, we'll be able to upgrade to give them enhanced versions of their perks. Let us know down below whether you think that makes Adept weapons worth it. I think with certain very good rolls of weapons, absolutely it will. But it's a bit disjointed that this feature hasn't gone live at the same time as the Master Raid itself, although at least it will drop next month. And finally, another spoiler alert is necessary here, although we're not really discussing story stuff for the future or major content spoilers, but there have been a lot of leaks related to the future of the game, the seasons throughout this year, and even the final shape. And the game post highlighted that a leaker who recently spoke about a change for Trials of Osiris turned out to be correct when Bungie published their Crucible blog post. And they've also shared a leak that supposedly suggests there will be a massive power system overhaul, and this would be in the next expansion. Not confirmed by Bungie, but they've said there will be a new kind of 1 to 100 power level, which will be account-based, and players will be able to earn power levels via challenges and XP. So instead of the current power system, it would almost be like a rank system. And they say weekly and seasonal challenges will grant a full power level, and there'll be different tiers of challenges. And currently players will be able to earn power level every 250,000 XP. But it says with a change like this, item infusion will no longer be a thing, so we won't need to infuse gear, and the level will be account-based and affect all of our characters and gear together. And obviously this is only a very basic description of supposed power level changes. As we know, systems like this will always be more complicated and nuanced than what we're seeing here, but it's an interesting conversation, and Bungie have said that they're looking at making power level changes in the future. They're even experimenting with not increasing the power level whatsoever next season. So in Season of the Deep, there won't be a power level increase, and max power in the game will be the same all the way up to August of this year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's certainly interesting, but again, not confirmed by Bungie right now. I just thought it would be something interesting to talk about, so give us your thoughts on it down below. And for today, guys, that's everything that we have to speak about in the video. So if you've enjoyed this one, a rating down below really does help us out. Feel free as well to get subscribed to the channel and share any of your thoughts in the comments section. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.